I'm not gonna lie to you, man. After watching this one, I'm completely speechless. This is one of the most beautiful anime experiences I've ever seen. Your Name offers gorgeous visuals and some really godlike storytelling that's really makes me reminisce on stuff like Summertime Rendering. After I finished this, I was damn near in tears, I'm not gonna lie. This shit was phenomenal, man. It was a complete emotional roller coaster all the way through. Shit made me stand up and clap in front of the TV, my nigga, like I was in a movie theater or something. I'm really excited to talk about this one. But before we get into it, I'm just gonna politely ask you to like and sub, please, because I'm trying to reach partner, and you know, it helps the channel a lot, and I get to see more people, and more people get to see me. So please drop a like and sub. You can always unsubscribe later, it's free. It just takes a second too. You know how we do things around here. Let's get into the story. Man, I'm gonna keep it a bean with you. You gonna have to lock in when you watch this, I promise you. I mean, like, you gotta lean in like your girl beating you a 2K game, because if you don't, you're gonna miss out on the beauty of this shit. Our story follows the two main characters, Mitsuha and Taki, and they're having this Freaky Friday type thing going on, where they switch bodies and they're living each other's lives a few times a week. Now, I'm gonna try to explain this as best as I can. This is a very complex story, but it's beautiful if you make sense of it. It's a 3-year offset in between their times though. As they live out each other's lives, they naturally grow closer to each other. One day, they both look up at this comet and all of a sudden they can't switch anymore. So eventually, Taki just says fuck it and tries to go to �ฑ𝐢𝐤𝐤, the city where she lives at, to find her since her calls to her aren't going through. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Psych, nigga. That same comet that Taki seen when he was outside split and destroyed the city and killed a third of the population, including Mitsuha and her friends. And those journal entries that Mitsuha left them earlier on in the movie were disappearing right before his eyes when he found out the news. This is the time break that the grandmother was talking about early on in the movie. This is gonna get very confusing here, so lock in. Like I said, lock in. So early on in the film, Mitsuha's grandmother was explaining the concept of Mitsubi. Basically, what I got from it is, in simple terms, that Mitsubi is thread, and the thread represents time. And like the concept of time in this movie, it breaks down and unravels and it connects itself back together again. And I think that one sentence perfectly represents this movie as a whole. Everything connects again. This movie confused the hell out of me at first, until I realized like that specific line actually means a lot in this movie. So after finding out that Mitsuha died, he goes to the shrine that they went to offer the sake, or whatever it's called, and he drunk it. I'm not exactly sure how, but it gave him the ability to switch again. So Taki in Mitsuha's body is trying to prevent all the deaths from happening, and he makes an effort so the whole city can evacuate it and avoid dying and avoid the blast zone. I think while this is going on, Mitsuha is in Taki's body and they eventually meet and they attempt to write each other's names so they don't forget each other. Instead of writing his name, Taki writes "I love you" in the heat of the moment because there's really no guarantee that they're going to get their memories back. So back to the evacuation plan, right? The plan seemingly failed and it shows the comet hitting the city anyway and destroying the city. Fast forward, it's 5 years later and Taki has completely forgotten everything except for the fact that he's been looking for something for a very long time. And he had this infatuation with this city. And the TV is playing next to him and he sees a news report that says the city was destroyed but there were no casualties because everyone evacuated away from the blast zone, insinuating indirectly that the plan actually worked. At this point in the movie, I'm damn near out my seat because I'm so happy. So after the date, with his co-worker, Taki is sitting in this cafe and he overhears this couple talking about a wedding and having a ceremony like the one that Mitsuha did in the beginning of the movie. He turns around and sees Mitsuha's friends, Tessie and Notori. My eyes lit up because they all died before it, further emphasizing that the plan worked. So at this point, I'm on the edge of my seat, my nigga, and they did a great job at creating suspense at the end because the scenes where they walk past each other completely blew me, nigga. They see each other on different trains, and at this point, they just started to look for each other, and then they walk past each other again. But this time, Taki asked her, does he know her? She says that she was about to ask him the same thing, and then they both ask in sync, what's your name? My nigga, this shit brought me to tears completely. I know I said that it damn near made me tear up, but fuck that, I was capping, I ain't gonna lie. This is some of the best storytelling I've ever seen. It's so complex, but at the same time, it could all be explained in that one sentence that Granny said earlier on in the movie, and it's so beautiful how that works. Like, it's so complex, but so simple. It's not that many times that the anime gets this much emotion out of me. The story is phenomenal. It's easily one of the best stories I've ever seen. Like, it's elite storytelling. Like, a lot of people not gonna get this, and a lot of people were probably confused after watching this the first time. But once I realized that one line Granny was talking about Mitsubi and explaining the concept of it, that one line connected everything together, and it just blew my mind how everything made sense after that. Like, the storytelling in this movie is like a masterclass. Like, it's really amazing. Next, we're gonna move on to characters and character interactions. They snap with everything in this movie, to be honest, and the characters are no different. The characters are great as well. Taki and Mitsuha are a phenomenal duo. Even when they're in each other's bodies, they have phenomenal chemistry. They both care for each other a lot, and they actually solve some of each other's problems directly and indirectly. Mitsuha at home, Mitsuha deals with being the daughter of a politician that's really hard on her and that abandoned her at a certain point in time, and she gets bullied for it a lot at school. When Taki was in her body, he stood up to her father, and he put his foot down and stood up for her against those bullies at her school. Taki has a hard time dealing with his feelings, so she actually lands him a date with his crush, even though she ended up liking him anyway. And she left him with that red thread to begin with to help him find her. Taki helped her live the big city life that she desired as well. They're literally like a perfect team, and every interaction between them is super wholesome. It's really enjoyable to watch too, especially the interaction they had on that mountain during the half-light. I couldn't help but smile the whole time watching that scene. They blushing hard as hell. It's the right amount of awkward. It's like cute. Like, this shit had me cheesing the whole time, man. I love these two little tee ass niggas, dog. I love these two niggas. That nigga Taki is funny as hell too. That nigga was sitting there crying, ripping her chest and shit in front of her sister. That shit was pure comedy. I actually like Taki's and Mitsuha's friends too. They're super genuine, and they all have Taki and Mitsuha's best interest. Even when they switch bodies, they still look out for them unconditionally. It's really refreshing. I'm really glad to think about that they all have a future where they all live together, since Taki and Mitsuha are technically married now. Every character in this movie is great. I like them all. Even Mitsuha's dad gets a little redemption, because you see what he had to deal with in the past, and losing his wife and losing their mother. All the stress that was on him. Like, they really take good care and attention to their characters in this. Look, personally, this ain't got nothing to do with her actual character in the movie, but the grandma is the real MVP in this movie for me. She's one of the real MVPs. The main characters are great, like they're the main characters, they're the central focus. But without the grandma, I wouldn't understand this movie at all. Without her telling me what Mitsubi is, she's the reason why I understand this movie, so she gets some extra points. And Mitsuha's sister is goated as well, and she's funny as hell too. So I love most of the characters in this movie. Next, let's move on to looks, presentation, and music. Look, bro, this movie is beautiful. This movie is so creative that it's kind of shocking. The visual storytelling is really jaw-dropping, and the way that they did things, it's just like they did things in the most non-lazy way possible. This is a very small and maybe minute detail that might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but they mimic a lot of camera shots in this movie, and I know for a fact that takes a lot of work. Not only are they animating this beautiful ass scenery that's going on in the shot itself, but they're mimicking camera movement around a subject, and they have these big panoramic shots while this scenery is going on, and while animating the actual subject themselves. I know it seems like a very small thing, but I know it took a lot of work, so I really appreciate them doing that. They could have cut corners. They could have easily just jump cut to the sky, but those little actions made this movie feel so much bigger, and they really snap with that shit. So I really appreciate a little shit like that. I like the presentation too. The little music breaks in between the major parts in the story makes me feel like I'm watching a big ass anime finale. If you watch any of my videos before, you'll know that I'm a sucker for those anime moments playing their OPs during these big ass action sequences. And this movie did it like 5 or 6 times, and I ate that shit up every single time. I was sitting there geeking, seeing those little lyrics pop up at the top right of the screen and them being so relevant. Like, it's so cool how they presented this movie. The music was phenomenal in this movie as well. This is the first time where a movie's music felt super relevant to the story. The OST for this movie tells a story within itself, and the lyrics are super relevant to Your Name story. It's so cool. These anime need to put away that damn piano shit, dog. Keep on making me sad and happy too much, man. The music was perfect in this movie, and it's such a big part of this movie that it has no choice but to be memorable. The whole OST, after I watched this movie, I just watched it like 2 hours ago. After I watched this movie, I listened to the OST all the way through like 4 times. And it slapped every single time. There's not really much more I can say, bro. Like, this is one of the best pieces of anime media I've ever watched. And I mean ever watched. It got real tears out of me, bro. Like, this is an experience and a half, and I promise you, if you pay attention, you lock in, like it's 5-5, round 11 a Call of Duty match, if you lock in, this will end up being one of your favorite pieces of fiction of all time. It's a bold-ass claim, but I'm going to stand by it 1,000%. Please watch this now. Don't rob yourself of one of the best anime movies of all time. Before you even say thank you, bro. You're welcome, gang. You're very welcome. It left me speechless, bro. Like, it really left me speechless. It got so much emotion out of me. It was such an emotional roller coaster. I was engaged the whole time. I was sad. I was happy. I was confused. I was curious. Like, I was perplexed. Like, it give you so many feelings all in one film. And I think this is easily one of the best anime movies of all time, and one of the most enjoyable watches I had in a while when it comes to anime. They took that extra step. It's always an extra few steps that people just cut through, and that's not really necessary. You could tell how much love and care that they put in this movie. And man, I appreciate every bit, every work, every frame drawn, every piece of artwork, every piece of concept art, every scrap story element, every story element that was left in. I appreciate every staff member that worked on this. Like, this was a beautiful piece of anime. Like, man, that's it for me, man. I can go on all day talking about this shit, but I really love this movie. Your Name is great, man. Please watch this. Please watch this. I beg of you. As always, man, have a great day. Peace.